Hello nerds and nerdettes, welcome to Man Brain. So as of filming, there's kind of like this silent recession and depression going on right now. And D&D can be a very expensive game to dive into. In my experience as a DM, I wanted to go over probably the top 5 items under $5 that help you most as a DM or amp up your games. With that being said, let's dive into it. All right, let's move over to the table so that way I have arm space. So let's go ahead and burn through some of like the $5 things that literally everyone uses as a DM. Dice, pens, and also dry erase markers. Those are going to be the most common things that are relatively cheap that you're going to use. So the first 2 upgrades are going to go kind of hand in hand. One being a cheap binder, probably several, because you can get more than one for $5. So that way you keep your notes, your character development, and your campaign separate. Now, it can get a little overwhelming if you stay not organized, but the second one that goes hand in hand with that is super cheap plastic laminators or page protectors. Now, this one has 2 reasons. One is it makes everything look nice, but whenever you use dry erase markers, yes, you're going to use dry erase markers to make maps, to like draw things, and just sketch and all that jazz. However, here's the thing. If you have one of those protectors, you're not permanently writing something on a piece of paper that you have behind the screen. It turns almost everything into dry erase instantly. Personally, I love, and it's made keeping track of which items have already been bought, which stores have things, what's a name of a store that I've already written down. It makes keeping track of it so much more easy. Item number 3, you're going to get 2 cheap notebooks. One is for general session notes. That one can be a little bit smaller, so that way whenever you improv like the new goblin familiar that your friend just made, or that one spell that this person was like, hey, can I homebrew this thing? And then it turns out to be incredibly busted, but then you write it down to appease them. And then you say, that might be a little bit more of a niche situation that I just ran into. Anywho, notebook number 1 is going to be a little bit smaller, kind of like a field notes thing. And that is going to be your session notes, so that way you can write down all the improv things and the things that you should generally know, but it is impossible to keep track of as a DM. The larger notebook is your reference guides. These are things during like combat. These are things that you can later put into the binder. This might be specific encounters. I have a composition notebook filled with a whole bunch of quick little one-shot quests. So that way, if my party members want to start like building up a little bit more money and start doing like small tasks, I just have to grab the binder and be like, okay, these are the quests that you have available for today, and these are worth X amount of gold. And the prices change based off of different areas because of like different demand. But the thing is, these are things that you are going to want to upgrade over time. The goal is to get the habit down with something cheap. That is the main lesson with these things. So up next we have anything that you can use to track the status of different characters, preferably different colors. In Matt Mercer's GM Academy, which is an excellent series, by the way, I do highly recommend checking it out for any aspiring DMs out there. He mentions that he uses the like the plastic rings out of like Coke bottles or like milk cartons or what have you. Now that is a very specific type of this, and I'm going to bank on the fact that you're probably a pretty creative person. But the goal is to also kind of find something that works for you. For me, it's multicolored Post-its or one of those tab marker things if a person is like burned, poisoned, paralyzed, stuff like that. Just like quick, like anything that's like multicolored and sticky works perfectly. Actually, I'm gonna throw index cards in there as well. This one actually wasn't planned, so this one's a little bit of a bonus one, so I guess now there's 6. Index cards are great multi-use items where they can either be like new spells, hidden scrolls, items with the stat blocks already written out, so they're already balanced, and you can just pull out a stack of them and like you can just become the store as opposed to kind of feeling like on your back foot trying to improv this one stand, and then you have to figure out the exact stats of how much eating a single grapefruit costs or whatever. Saying this stuff out loud makes me realize I have very weird players. And the 5th and final thing that we're going to go over is kind of a collection of a bunch of small things, but it's the concept of the combination of these things that make it worth your while. The last thing is going to be a nice ruler, a pouch, or something to hold all your dry erase markers. Basically anything that's used to help with organization. Now again, these things are designed for either students or people who are just trying to be a little bit more organized. But in general, the faster you can retrieve information, because it can be very overwhelming to have to kind of try and think back to that one session that you had where you made an offhanded remark and then your players now have a new favorite player or NPC, and it's very confusing. However, if you can reference that very quickly, it gives off the impression of confidence, and you don't have to worry as much about feeling insecure or hitting imposter syndrome, because let's be honest, imposter syndrome is kind of the big thing that a lot of DMs hit. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, if you agree, disagree, or if you have any $5 things that you use in your games. However, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.